are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again. Today, we have another amazing show. Today, with a special guest, Elizabeth Vargas. She is the former host of 2020 and ABC World News Tonight and co-anchor host of a new show, Elizabeth Vargas Reports. And it's a true honor having you on the show today, Elizabeth. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing awesome, and it's amazing to have you on. You're a true legend in your field. And with that said, kind of share with our audience about your new amazing show, Elizabeth Vargas Reports, and what can viewers expect from this?
It's an hour-long show from 6 to 7 every night, 6 to 7 Eastern, and it's going to be an in-depth look at the handful of the biggest stories of the day. We'll do an in-depth analysis, talk to a lot of newsmakers, provide sort of the context and nuance. You know, what does it all mean, in other words? But absent all the shouting, talking heads that you see so much on cable news, it's not an opinion show. That doesn't mean my guests won't share their opinions. If I'm asking somebody, for example, on how strong is this case that the Manhattan District Attorney has brought against the former president, that's an opinion. But I think what's important to know is that it's not going to be all one side. We're going to allow people to disagree reasonably and thoughtfully explain their positions. And I think that's something, that's largely missing on cable news today.
And with this program being on NewsNation, that is an awesome platform to be on. So what does it feel like to be on that platform?
It's great. It's a brand new cable news network. If your listeners are looking for us they can go to newsnationnow.com/join us to figure out how they can see us, what the easiest way is. And it's always exciting. My boss who hired me said, welcome to the last great adventure in television news. And it's fun to build something from the ground up. We're the only cable news network that's growing, which is good news. We have a long way to go, but we're also brand new. Fox News and CNN, it took them both years and years to build an audience, and we're patient. I think if we do a good, smart program every night that's fair and thoughtful, people will come.
And you have, like I said in the intro, a long, impressive career in journalism, covering breaking news stories and conducting in-depth investigations. Is there any story or interview that comes to mind that is the most memorable for you?
Gosh, after all these years, it's hard to pick one. The best thing about this job is you have a front row seat to history. Whether it's being in the Oval Office interviewing the President of the United States or going to Iraq in the middle of the war and interviewing, then Senator Joe Biden and Lindsey Graham and the Green Zone, or I slept in the backseat of a car covering, down in the Gulf Coast, covering Hurricane Katrina for a week. It's, you get to go where the news is happening and interview the people who are making news, or the ordinary people who did something truly extraordinary and therefore they're making news. It's a real privilege to tell those stories. And I feel really lucky that I've had the chance to do it so many times over so many years so far.
We're talking to Elizabeth Vargas and all about the news show, Elizabeth Vargas Reports. And you touched on it, but with you being a seasoned journalist and you look at today's landscape of, the digital landscape, what's some of the challenges you see with facing your industry with just the whole digital world being very active?
It's a very good question. I think that now more than ever, our kids need to be learning. They need to be teaching a class on information literacy in school. If I had $1 for every time I told my kids, you can't believe everything you read on the internet, I could put them through college already. It's, I went to journalism school, one of the best schools of journalism, the best school of journalism in the country, at the University of Missouri. And, we learned all about ethics and law in addition to just the mechanics of how you rate to video and to sound and, legally what you can and cannot do when you're, in other words, there's all sorts of things that we've been trained to do. And we have lawyers and, who fact check everything and make sure it's not just accurate, but that it's fair, that it's in context. And, versus somebody who's online someplace just typing something in and uploading it. And the consumer at home, i.e. my kids, read it and many millions of others read it and think, oh, well, it must be true. And it's not. It's one person's opinion sometimes. It's one person's fantasy sometimes. And it's really important to, differentiate that.
You also are a host of a podcast called Heart of the Matter, and you're also on the board of directors for a nonprofit partnership to end addiction. How important is for you to give back to the community?
Well, listen, we know we're in the midst of a mental health crisis in this country. There was that new CDC report out just a few weeks ago talking about the crisis and, affecting our teenagers and young adults. Drug overdose deaths continue to set records every single year. We have a crisis going on. Tens of millions of Americans suffer from anxiety and depression. Many of them self-medicate that with drugs and alcohol. And the vast majority don't get help because they're afraid of the stigma around, raising their hand and asking for help. And the only way you chip away at stigma is by talking about it. And I plan to do that on my show. And it's in the news cycle. I mean, Senator Fetterman just got out of a hospital after getting treated for severe depression for 6 weeks. We need to talk about these things instead of, the partisan reaction to Senator Fetterman's decision to seek help was so extreme. And that's why people are afraid to say, I need help, because, they'll be greeted with ridicule or will pay a price somehow. And it's terrible. People suffer in silence as a result. And I hope to change that just by talking about it.
Thank you for your time. We're talking to Elizabeth Vargas, and you can watch her show on NewsNation, Elizabeth Vargas Reports, weeknights, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. True legend. I want to say thank you for your time, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.